Good morning and welcome to session 4 on my series on thriving with panic and anxiety. Today we're going to be chatting a bit about panic stations and kind of also a little bit about what we've touched on in other previous series again, and these series again, I'm just repeating again, are archived on my Facebook page. We're going to talk a bit about the ABCs of thinking and feeling, and we'll tell you a bit more about this, what this is. We're going to learn about some new ABCs of thinking. We're going to learn how to analyze your ABCs, how to help yourself uncover these unhelpful thoughts, and to clarify these ABCs. I'm going to teach you a little bit about a thought diary that you could start developing, and then we'll summarize what we've covered today. So, we've seen that how thinking can affect how we feel about things, and if we're feeling happy and excited, chances are that we've been thinking positive thoughts and more about positive things and having a more positive outlook. On the other hand, if we've been feeling anxious, depressed, or upset, it's likely that we've been having unhelpful thoughts, or these negative thoughts, what we've termed unhelpful thoughts, simply because they lead to unpleasant feelings or unpleasant actions. All right, so let's learn about this idea called ABC. So ABCs, and as I said, we've played on this in previous sessions. ABC is a very basic idea that comes out of cognitive behavior therapy. So all of us at times think things that make us feel sad or anxious, and that it's a normal part of life. But, however, if you often feel distressed or anxious, you might need to examine your thinking to improve how you feel. And to do that, let's start by learning a bit about this new set of ABCs. So the A part of the ABC is the activating event. So it's an event or situation that activates how we think or feel about something. All right? And I've often referred to it thinking about a snake, because most people respond in a certain way to a snake. You either like snakes or you don't like snakes, but a snake might be ideal. So the activating event would be a snake coming into the room. The B part of the ABC refers to our beliefs about this event. So in the previous module, we talked a bit about how our thoughts and beliefs influence our emotions about a situation. So if we think about a situation in a different way, it leaves us feeling a different way. So the belief, so the snake comes into the room, we believe that the snake's going to kill us or bite us, or that it's poisonous. And the C part of that ABC then refers to consequences. So as we talked about this previously, one type of consequence is how our beliefs lead us to feeling a particular way about a situation. Another consequence of those thoughts might be the physical symptoms or our actions, okay? So if unhelpful thoughts then lead to these distressing emotions, so then it might be quite reasonable to assume that the most effective thing to do then is to change those unhelpful thoughts into helpful ones, okay? So the activating event would be the snake coming in the room. Your B would be your belief about that event. It's going to bite me. The C would be the consequence, which would initially be a feeling, so you'd feel scared, and that feeling would then change into an action, which means either I must kill the snake or I must run away. So in order to do this and to start influencing the way we feel, we need to be alert, to be aware of, and to try and capture these unhelpful thoughts, okay, as they're happening. So with the ultimate aim of changing them. So to do that, we're going to start by doing an ABC analysis. Now, I think the easiest way for you to do this, this presentation I'm doing could normally be done in a workshop format, but because I'm doing it across in this manner, when you're listening to this event, or you could play this back with your video and draw it up. But the idea would be to get a piece of paper and to start analyzing an event that's gone on in your life, where you can just think about this event as I go through this event. So while you're analyzing the ABC process, it's helpful to write it all down. So if you've ever noticed that when your thoughts or feelings are swimming around your head or resonating or moving around in circles, it can get quite confusing, and writing them down often helps one to clarify our thoughts and feelings. This is why often in psychology or in therapy we recommend journaling, or diarizing events and things that go on in your day. So the ABC analysis begins with identifying that activating event. So simply write down an event or situation in which you experienced a strong negative emotion, such as anxiety, and then record the situation the same way a video camera might record it. Just the facts. So we're not talking about how you're feeling, what happened. So this might either be an actual event or a situation leading to a set of unpleasant feelings, such as walking through a shopping center. It could also be a mental picture or a recollection leading to unpleasant feelings, such as remembering the last time that you had a panic attack. But don't include your thoughts about why the situation occurred, who was responsible, and how you felt about it. Just describe the event simply without any frills. Okay, so that's the activating event. Now, because how you've responded to the situation can stand out clearly, the next step is to identify the consequences. So we're still not at the beliefs. We've jumped from A to C. Okay, so this includes your feelings. Now write down the words that best describe your feelings. And when you've written down the words, rate the intensity of that emotion from 0 to 100. The higher the number, the more intensely you felt that emotion. Now I want you to have a look at all those feelings and then to choose the feeling that best represents the emotion that you actually felt at the time and underline it, okay? So jot down everything that you felt and then sort of try and find one overarching emotion that you felt. And then look at your physical symptoms. So physical symptoms are the primary concern for many people with panic, and you should record these down as well. So my heart was racing, breathlessness, dizziness, sweating, so on, knot in your stomach, whatever physical symptoms that you had, and then write down your actions or your behavior. And you may also want to note any actions that you carried out. For example, if you're using safety behaviors or if you left the situation. Like I said, often when I would have dizzy spells, I would reach for some sugar or drink a Coca-Cola. So what were your safety behaviors that you did? Lean against the wall if you were feeling dizzy or vertigo, run out of the shopping mall. So write down what your safety behaviors. Some people even use the asthma pump. And there's some arguments around that with the asthma pump is just being a way of self-medicating, sometimes when we get anxious. Now, keeping in mind the situation and the feelings you experienced, I want you now to think back to the B part. So we've done A and C. Now we're going to do the middle part, the B part, your beliefs. And to identify some of your beliefs or your thinking around this, your expectations, your perceptions, your attitudes, any beliefs and thoughts that can best be described as self-talk. So these things are quietly going on in the back of your head without you even realizing it and causing tremendous upheaval in your emotional responses and in your physical responses. So jot down what you thought and what you've said to yourself in response to a situation or event. And then ask yourself to sort of prompt this way of thinking or to prompt your way of getting these ideas out. What was I thinking when that event occurred? What was going through my mind at the time? And then when you've completed this whole task, read through each statement and underline the thought that's most associated with that primary emotion that you felt during A. And we'll call that your hot thought. So that hot thought can trigger. So if you felt dizzy, for example, and you think, I've got a brain tumor, I'm about to die, that hot thought creates this panicking kind of behavior in you. And at least you can identify that hot thought. And then rate that thought on a scale from 0 to 100 across them. So let's take another look at an example. So imagine you're walking through a shopping center and you start to feel anxious. If you did an ABC analysis, you might ask yourself, how am I making myself anxious? What am I thinking? And you might identify a thought such as, I don't want to be here. And if you only had this thought, you'd probably not experience a strong emotion, but only feel mildly anxious. But if you do experience a strong emotional response to this thought, it probably indicates that there are other thoughts underlying that thought. Therefore, the thought, I don't want to be here, is only an initial thought. And you would need to discover what other unhelpful thoughts were present to evoke such a strong emotional response. So the thought, I don't want to be here, might be 20 on that scale of 0 to 100. But I don't want to be here could translate into the people are coming, they're getting too close to me, people are going to make me sick, or they're a bunch of zombies, or whatever it is that your mind could make up. And then that could be the hot thought that's now triggering a much stronger emotional response. So how do we uncover those unhelpful thoughts? So by asking yourself a number of questions, you can uncover any other unhelpful thoughts that underlie that initial thought. So let's use the example of walking through a shopping center to identify that unhelpful thought and what is the underlying initial thought that prompted the panic attack. So the initial thought was just, I don't want to be here. So the following is a description of some thoughts that might be going through your head as you uncover some unhelpful thoughts. And the question is, how bold are you in challenging and trying to find that particular one? So it could be if you have a thought, I don't want to be here, you could say, I don't want to be here because of what? I can feel my heart beating harder and harder. And that's bad because, well, it'll beat so hard, I might have a heart attack. And what would that mean? Well, nobody will know how to help me. And what will happen then? I'll be left there to die. So that is your hot thought, is from the initial thought, I don't want to be here, by just through a process of questioning and asking yourself deeper questions, you get down to this line, I'll be left here to die. So your thought or your worry or your panic is actually about dying in a shopping mall, not just I don't want to be here. So you have to get down to that hot thought so you can see it for what it is. So your task is to become an expert at identifying these unhelpful thoughts. Sometimes one or two thoughts might not represent the other unhelpful thoughts that you might have had. And as such, to get to those other thoughts, you might need to ask some of the following questions. And these are called thought discovery questions. Thought discovery questions. I just want to go back a step. It's even with anger. People often say to me, I feel angry. And anger is not the primary emotion. Anger is a secondary emotion. So once you look back, what is the actual emotion? So when someone comes for anger management, you very seldom, well, of course you have to deal with the anger and how they're expressing the anger, but you've got to go look at what's causing the anger. And it could be frustration, intolerance, resentment. Ultimately, insecurity can be causing anger. So we need to work with that. So it's the same what we're trying to do here. We're trying to move from the initial thought to the hot thought. And that, as I said, there's a vast difference between I don't want to be here to I'll be left here to die. All right, so here's some of these questions, like we call them thought discovery questions that you can ask yourself when you're reflecting. So what's so bad about that? What is it that I see happening in this situation? What am I concluding about myself or others in this situation? And that's bad because, and what does it say about me? So these are kind of discovery questions. So it's best to be as specific as you can, even if you can think of some of your unhelpful thoughts or that they sound silly or embarrassing when you think about them, it's important to uncover them. Discovering your unhelpful thoughts, no matter how silly they sound, is important in learning how to better manage your moods. And as you've done this, we're going to tackle the issue of where to go from here. At this point, it's important that you understand how to identify your feelings and thoughts surrounding a particular situation, especially one in which you've experienced strong and unhelpful emotions. Unhelpful or disturbed emotions are those that elicit the strongest physiological reaction in your body, such as a tightness in the chest, which is associated with anxiety, or an increase in blood pressure, which is associated with anger. And emotions such as depression, guilt, fear, rage, and anxiety can also lead to avoidance and destructive behaviors towards yourself and others. And they might obstruct appropriate problem-solving behaviors. They might cause long-term physiological damage, such as hypertension, which is high blood pressure, heart disease, and of course psychological harm, and developing psychiatric problems and having to go on to long-term medication. So doing this ABC analysis is taking the first step to learning how to manage your mood, including anxiety, and helping yourself to feel better. So it's important to put together some sort of a thought diary. I'm also thinking of ways that how I could put this onto the page, but I will post these thought diaries and feelings lists, etc., onto my Facebook page together with as a sort of a follow-on to this these talks. So if you go look at my page as well as watching the video, you'll see examples of thought diaries, examples of feeling lists, etc. All right, then just clarifying these ABCs. So when we first started trying to break down an anxious experience into the components of A, B, and C, it can be easy to confuse them. Remember, activating event, belief, and consequences. So we frequently talk about thoughts and feelings as though they are the same sort of experience. I feel like you don't pay me enough attention. Instead of separating them and saying, I think that you don't pay me enough attention and I feel hurt about that. Also, it's quite common for a thought or memory to be an activating event or a situation. For example, thinking about catching public transport, A, can lead you to thoughts about having a panic attack, B, which then leads to anxious feelings, and C, it creates this whole ABC paradigm again and gets you moving in the circle. So I'm going to try and do this other exercise again with you over the internet, and I want you to think in terms of a word, and I want you to just decide if this word is a situation, a thought, or an emotion. So, nervous. Okay, that would be an emotion. Catching the bus to work. A situation. Something terrible is going to happen. A thought. Planning an upcoming event. Situation. They'll think I'm weird. Thought. Panic. Emotion. There's no way this is going to work out. Thought. Anxious. Feeling. Shopping for my groceries. Situation. Fearful. Emotion. Remembering the conversation with my workmate. Thought. Irritated. Feeling. This shouldn't be happening. Thought. Thinking about meeting friends at a cafe. It's also a thought, but it's a thought and a situation. I'm going crazy. Thought. So as you can see, there's a number of different ideas there that help us to sort of try and balance this out and sort of put them into the A, B, and C categories, especially when we're trying to analyze them. So let's summarize what we've covered today. So assessing the thinking-feeling connection involves analyzing the ABCs of thinking and feeling. In this process, A stands for activating event, B stands for belief, and C stands for consequences. The ABC analysis assesses how you feel and what you think in a particular situation by using a thought diary, and this is quite helpful, and following the following steps. The activating event, the ABC analysis begins with writing down an event or a situation in which you've experienced a strongly negative emotion such as anxiety, and record the situation the same way a video camera would record it, just the facts. We're not saying how we're thinking or feeling yet. Then step into the consequences. What were the consequences of that event? This often stands out most clearly, so write down the consequences of what happened next. This includes writing down what physical symptoms you felt, your actions that you took, and any other behaviors in that situation, and also what emotions or feelings that you experienced. And this includes underlining and rating the intensity of that emotion that best represents what you felt at the time. We're looking for that primary emotion. Then write down the beliefs. Finally, the ABC analysis explores the thoughts that led to these feelings, and this includes writing down all the beliefs and thoughts, such as what is going through your mind at the time. And it's important to identify that hot thought, the most important one, which is the thought most associated with that primary emotion. Underline it and rate how much you believe that thought. If your thought is quite a low score, then that can't be the one, and through a process of questioning, try and get down to that hot thought. So sometimes these hot thoughts underlie your initial thoughts, and by asking some thoughtful discovery questions, you can uncover any other unhelpful thoughts. And these questions include asking yourself, what is bad about that? And what is it I see happening in that situation? And that is bad because of? So it's also important to clarify what is an activating event, what's a belief, and what's the consequence, such as feelings. And using your thought diary to analyze these ABC surrounding situations in which you felt anxious is a beginning of learning to change how you feel in these situations. So in the next module, we're going to look more closely at different thought patterns and what we might call unhelpful thinking styles. So I want to say thank you for joining me today. Please, if you've, again, to like, comment, share this video with anyone that you think might like it. And we'll chat again tomorrow. Have a great day. Cheers. Bye.